Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Raise the Vibe with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Peterson, and today I am interviewing Dr. Varun Gandhi. We're going to be talking all about his course that is coming up, What's Your Story? Super excited to talk about that. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Varun. Dr. Varun Gandhi is a life orchestrator, soulpreneur, angel investor, inventor, philanthropist, and a water doctor. He enjoys orchestrating businesses, events, and ideas about the self-image. He is currently focused on creating a digital course called What's Your Story, which allows you to create your life film, a chart consisting of your memories, experience, and defining moments that have left an impression. Each of these moments have a lesson to be learned for you. Your My Life film also allows you to create new meaning to your past experiences, create a new future you, and write affirmations that help maintain the new you. Dr. Varun, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Liz. I appreciate the interview and love and abundance, everyone.
Awesome. It's so great to have you. Why don't we jump right in, and how about you share your story? Like, what led you? What was your journey to today?
All right. My journey began, let's say, in America a couple of months before 9/11. These were interesting times. When I first landed here, it was summertime, so I was, kind of hanging out with family. But then once school started, it was very foreign to me, very alien, and I was used to being in one environment back home in the United Arab Emirates, and in one environment, one school. So I was very familiar with everything around me. Had a lot of friends, teachers knew me, and when I landed here, I was like, boom, no one knows me. Who am I? And so it was a very tough time for me. And so I remember waking up, not wanting to go to school, and I'd cry when it was time for the bus to pick me up. I was a 15-year-old kid, and my mom would just see that and be like, you know what, just go one more day. Just go one more day and see how it is today. Eventually, a couple of months into high school, 11th grade, this is 11th grade when everyone has made their cliques and they've already kind of formed their circles. So once I found my whole kind of crew of misfits, I felt more comfortable. It only took a couple people. I didn't need a whole lot of people. Just a couple friends to kind of get me through and get me adjusted to the new environment. So that was the way I started, and I was in that mode of I'm gonna go to high school, I'm gonna graduate and go to college. There's some advanced degree involved, and then I'll find a job and live a stable life. That was kind of my track, and usually an Indian man, that's their track, is like, we're gonna go through this progression in life and have family and kids and all that. Well, I made it all the way from, I graduated undergrad and I went into a master's program. And, during that summertime, in between my undergrad and master's, I had a summer internship. At that point, something inside of me, I was working at this job. It was kind of like a desk job and looking at Excel files and things like that. Something inside of me told me, like, this is not what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. Like, this is not it, right? There's something out there for you. I didn't really pay attention to it, but I went, so what I did feel something inside of me that said, look, I don't want to be doing this, so I'm going to stay in school longer. So instead of, I just signed up to get a master's degree. So instead of just getting a master's degree, I said, I'm going to stay in school and get a PhD, which is, another 4 years of your life. So I prolonged my graduation, stayed in school. And once I graduated, I found a job, the same thing that was a summer internship, very similar kind of job. And I was like, I made about a year into this job. And finally, I started having questions. I started, really tuning into my body because it was at this time, about a year and a couple months in, I started having these pains in my solar plexus. This was, it started off very subtle. Every morning I'd feel it. And about 2 months into it, 3 months into it, it was like right in my face. I couldn't ignore it. Now it was there. And, I was kind of living with it. And I realized, I knew that it wasn't something physical with me, with my body. It was more of, something deeper beyond that. So something inside of me said, you know what, just sit down with it, sit down with the pain and ask questions. Like, this was my unconscious phase, not really, aware of things around me and things that are going on inside of me even. So I sat down, and some of the questions that came, or one particular question that came up is, like, why are you going to this job that you don't really care about? You're waking up, going to this 8 to 5, 9 to 5, working, sometimes even working longer hours than that, traveling for the job. But at the end of the day, you're still not satisfied. You're still not happy. You're all of your needs are taken care of. You have, very comfortable life, but you're still not happy. What is it? And so initially I just justified it with, okay, you know what, I'm helping the public health infrastructure. It was a meaningful job in the sense of, I was protecting the water, the drinking water that came into our houses. So it is, protecting people from a potential health risk. But I still felt like my contribution to it was very minimal, and yeah, 0.2%, if that. Like, I was trying to quantify it, and the number I came up was like 0.2%, but maybe even that, I don't know. And so in that sense, I said, there's something greater out there for me. Like, this wasn't it. So finally, that thing again came up. What I felt in that 3-month summer internship, it again came up, and at that point, I realized, you know what, this is not it for me. I have to move on. There's something else out there. Let me just go and search for it. I don't know what it is. I've always been kind of lost in this sense. I'm very unclear in my direction, and especially my career. Relationships have come very easily to me in the sense of, romantic relationship. I'd find someone randomly at a club or randomly at a spot, and boom, 3 years later, we're still dating, and so I've gotten very comfortable in that sense. But career is always something that has been a challenge for me, like purpose, especially. So that question of purpose again came up. So finally, I left the job behind. It took me about 2 months to convince myself, another month or two to convince my parents. It's kind of big in our culture to respect and listen to your parents and their wishes. So it took me a while to convince them as well. But finally, I fought against all the forces, and I said, you know what, this is not it for me. This is not in my best interest to continue in this job. It's time to find something different. I don't know what that is, but it'll come to me whenever the time is right. So I packed up everything. I was in Boise, Idaho. So moved from Atlanta is where I graduated, moved to Boise, Idaho for this job. And when I was out there, I mean, it's beautiful city, amazing place to visit. Definitely highly recommend it. Uh, I moved out there for this job. And then finally I said, I'm going to pack up everything and go back home to Atlanta, because this is where I know, very familiar with it. Friends, family, everyone was there. So now I'm gonna rewind back a little bit and talk about my one of the relationships that I was in.
Mhm.
So while I was graduating my PhD, the last about 6 months or so, I was going through this. We had dated for about a year and a half at this point, almost 2 years at this point, and we were going through some rough waters. And for me, I'd imagined her to be the one. Like, I had seen my life. She was the one with the 2 kids and the dog in suburbia, living the American dream, right? And I had seen that, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. The relationship broke off 2 years into it, and I was completely distraught. Like, I remember waking up with tears in my eyes, like literally just in bed. The first thing would be tears, because I couldn't accept this reality. Like, I wanted that reality, though. It was just there a week ago, and now all of a sudden it's no longer. And so I was in that phase for about 2 months or so, 3 months. But this was time when I was graduating. I was writing my dissertation, literally like months away from giving the biggest presentation of my life. I had to finish this 200-page book in the meantime. And I had this distraction constantly eating at me. So I was kind of dealing with that. So this is where I use comedy as a tool to help me, raise my vibe. And so in that sense, Jon Stewart was on at the Daily Show at that point in Comedy Central. And so I'd watch him, his 20-minute, 22-minute bits every morning. I'd get out of bed, push myself, get out of bed, sit down. Before I start my work for the day, I'll watch his 20-minute bit. And that was what got me through my PhD. And the last few months of my life was comedy. It's played a huge role in my life. I still employ comedy and things, and just to get my spirits up and raising the vibe. So I was graduating now. I finished graduating. All of the memories that we had, the 2 years, was all of it in Atlanta. So the move to Idaho represented that I got to move away from Atlanta. First thing, because I had way too many things, common to Atlanta and way too many memories here. So I had to get away from all that. But in hindsight 2020, looking at it now, it's like it represented that moment of going into the cave, going into that darkness, because I went to Idaho not knowing anyone. I didn't know anyone there. Went out there for a job, and only the only people I knew was my HR person the first day, because I'd met her during the interview time. And so, you know, I could have taken that time to really focus on me, and like how I am messed up and through the relationship, and what on the after effects of it. But instead, all that pain and suffering, I couldn't deal with it. So instead, what I did is I ran away from it. I distracted myself. I would drink alcohol, I would party, I would, I mean, anything and everything to run away from sitting with myself and really understanding what the root cause of these issues are. So that was the first year of my time in Boise. I would do everything. And finally I realized, okay, it was starting to catch up to me. I was eating fast food, nasty food, all of that alcohol. It's very, very unhealthy lifestyle, very unsustainable. So about a year into it, it finally caught up to me. I said, you know what, I need to make a change. I've been focusing too much on these unhealthy lifestyle habits. I need to start moving in the direction that it really kind of picks me up. There was a time where like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. I'm at work and I'd crash. Like I'd have to go outside for a walk to get some fresh air to be able to actually then continue throughout the day and finish the 3-4 hours that I have left. And so it was very tough, times where I had like a lot of noise in my head, because I realized that noise was draining me. And by 2-3 o'clock, all those thoughts like, a lot of negativity, a lot of negative thoughts that were just constantly ruminating in my head, my imagination going wild. And so that would kind of sap my energy. And by afternoon time, I'd be dead. I'd have to go out for a walk, pick me up, drink coffee, and then finally come back to my desk to finish off time. So that I remember those times, and I said, you know what, this is it. I have to make changes. So I started reducing alcohol. I have to take baby steps in the direction. I can't like go cold turkey. And so I started like slowly, it was okay, let me drink less. I'd start eating healthier foods, and slowly started switching things out in my diet and my lifestyle choices. So that's been my journey thus far. And throughout all of this, the one thing, like I was going through my pain and suffering in Boise, Idaho, and I picked up this book by Deepak Chopra. The book is called The Book of Secrets. And this was my I wasn't spiritual at all at this point. Very like logical, mind focused thinking, processing, breaking things down, analyzing. So when I read this book, 95% of it went over my head. I didn't understand most of it. There was a little bit that stuck with me, and that little bit was meditation. And so once I kind of understood, I picked up a little bit from that book, but then I dove deeper, just researched, Google things to understand what meditation is all about. Now, this is a time when I was kind of moving back from Boise to Atlanta. I left my job behind. And at this point, I said, you know what, I'm going to explore and understand what I really want to do. I'd never had this opportunity until this point to really, I'd never given myself that space to explore outside of that. Okay, I'm going to run the rat race, just follow this one track, one path. I'd never thought about, oh, what else is outside of this job? Could I do something else? Could it be a business? Could it be another kind of job? I mean, whatever. I didn't even consider those options. It was only that particular kind of engineering job that I was focused on. So finally had this opportunity, like the space to breathe. All right, let me, now meditation was also the word that was the buzzword for my time. And so I picked up this habit of meditating every day. I said, you know what, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes. Again, baby steps for me. So I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes and do my best. If I don't make it, it's okay. And there were days that I just gave up within 30 seconds. But I do my best to make it up to 5 minutes. So I worked up 3 months, 6 months, finally got there. And then I was like, okay, now let me go to 10 minutes. And so slowly started meditating longer and longer. At this point, when I was first starting, it was like, the perfect analogy would be we're in the ocean and when I first started meditating, I felt like I was at the top of the waves, very turbulent, like constantly, there's just so much energy and so much like negativity in there. Then I started meditating and I started going deeper and deeper into this ocean. I started getting into the inner depths of this ocean. I started getting like very peaceful and quiet inside, and so that's been one of the greatest blessings for me through meditation is being able to quiet my anxious mind. I mean, anxiety is still there in me, and I feel it on a daily basis, but it's not through the mind. There are other factors behind it. I'm working through those as well. And so as I was meditating, the one thing that came up to this whole idea of what's your story, that's it. Kind of came in through my meditation, and then understanding, like Dr. Wayne Dyer's work, and he talks about change your thoughts, change your story. And this is kind of a very similar concept that, at every moment of our lives, we are creating a story. Whenever, we try to make sense of a situation or a series of situations that have happened in our lives, it's us making sense of a certain story based on our life, our perspectives, our memories, the emotions that we feel, right? If there was someone else would be looking at those same set of experiences, they possibly would come up with a completely different story for themselves, right? Because they have a different set of experiences, different set of memories. And so it is this story creation process inside of us that I feel like we have to recognize. It took me a while to recognize this as well, because it was so unconscious, it was so instantaneous, it would happen right away, meaning there would be something would happen outside of me externally, and inside of me the story would be created like right away, and I wouldn't even recognize it, be conscious or be aware that I was the one creating that story, that I have power over how I create that story, that I can change that story and change my attitude about life, meaning the way I create every story is not negative anymore. I'm not looking at it from a scarcity point of view. I could start moving in the direction of abundance and start shifting my mindset towards abundance. So now I'm creating abundance stories for every situation, for every aspect of my life. I'll give you like a great example. So I'm a new parent. 6 weeks ago, we had a child, a baby boy.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And babies are like essentially blank slates, right? They do something, they do an action or whatever, and they don't have a reasoning for it. They're just doing it, right? But it's me creating a story about why they did it. I say something like I'm having a conversation with them, and they make a hand motion like that, and be like, "Oh, this is why you did that." It was me creating that story, right? And so I'm in control of that, and this is the same thing that happens inside of us. We are creating these stories. We have the power to change them. Now, why do I say it's stories? Thoughts is one thing. Yes, we are creating thoughts, but then thoughts instantaneously go into emotions. It's all happening all at once. So once you have a particular thought, it's like now you have it doesn't remain just a thought. Now you have the emotions that follow along with it. Now you have your imagination that follows along with it. And you start creating images in line with that particular thought. And all of it happens very, very fast. So that's why I call it a story, because it consists of a thought, it consists of emotions, it consists of an image, maybe some motion picture, some words. It's a whole story that's going on over there. It's like a whole film that's really going on. And so that's why I say we're creating these stories inside of our minds, and we have the power to upgrade them. Now, what is this? How does the story process creation work, right? How are we creating stories? So I'll give you an analogy. Like we're sitting in this movie theater, and we're watching a movie on the screen. Like Mission Impossible is going on the screen, or sorry, Top Gun. That's the latest one. So Top Gun is going on, and we're watching this movie. Now there's a screen, and then there's a projector in the back. This projector is shooting images onto the screen. The screen and the projector are just tools. The film, the actual meat of the movie, is consisted in the film that's inside of this projector, right? So now in our lives, the same thing is going on. The projector is our third eye chakra right here, is our imagination. We're shooting out these images onto the various screens in our lives. The people that come into our life, that's a screen. Your parent is a screen. That the new person in your life, that's a screen. So every person is a screen. Every situation is a screen. Every experience is a screen in our life. We are creating these images through our imagination, and our third eye is projecting these images onto those screens. But what is the film? The film is inside of us. What is actually projecting out is something that's inside of us. And that's what this whole course deals with, is talking about how can we create that my life film. You're creating your whole film, going back into your past, going back into when you were from your ages 0 to 10, 10 to 20, all these different age groups, understanding what are those experiences that you've had and how have they affected you. In my life, it took me about 30 years to sit down and introspect. Like at this point, I was just running through life, not even analyzing like, okay, what was my thoughts? What was I feeling during this period in my life? I was just living life and doing whatever I can very unconsciously. And so now I finally sat down and said, you know what, I need to, let me analyze my life. Let me, look back on it and see how can I be a better person? Because I've done certain things in my life that I'm not proud about. In that relationship, I could have done things better. I know. And at this point, I hadn't really taken that time to introspect. So finally, I got a chance. And this is what this course does. It's giving you that opportunity to dive deeper. Let's go back when you were 5 years old, 7 years old. Let's have conversations with people in your life at that point. Maybe you'll have a conversation with a parent and they'll give you a memory that you never came up for you. You could include this in your My Life film and then understand how that memory and what happened at that point in your life is still affecting you today. We have introspective questions to kind of gain these insights from you. So once you get an understanding of who you are today, now you can start moving in the direction of where you want to be. You have certain goals in your life. In my life, speaking has been a big challenge for me. I was during my PhD, I was giving these national presentations, and I was out there getting my voice out there, but I was very uncomfortable while I was going through these situations, going through these experiences. I'd have to create like a script of everything. I'd have to memorize my whole presentation so that when I go there, I could just regurgitate it without having to think about anything. It was just saying word after word after word after word and just hitting my points and making sure I got it. But in that sense, I wasn't really thinking for myself. So whenever a question would come up, the Q&A portion after the presentation, I would always stumble on the questions because I couldn't rehearse those questions. I don't know what questions are going to come up, right? And so I couldn't rehearse those answers. I couldn't think on the fly because I was so self-conscious of myself that my whole thinking, processing, logical mind is shut down, and I was so in my emotions and just letting that fear take over. And that's why I would have to script everything out because I felt that fear initially. I said, I can't deal with this on stage. I need to script it out. So I kind of don't let the fear overcome me. And so that's why I would use all these techniques. But then since then, especially in the last year or so, I've done a lot of these podcast interviews. I've put myself out there and shared what's your story on many, many different platforms. And in that sense, I've gotten so comfortable speaking. And what I realized was that in the moment of me speaking, what stories am I creating? And I had to really pay attention to those stories. So every podcast interview I would do, especially the initial ones, I would really be present and pay attention to what is going on inside of me. Yes, my guest is responding and they're answering my question, but I also want to pay attention to how am I feeling while I'm in this situation. The camera is in front of me. There's another person listening to me. Am I comfortable? Am I at ease in these situations? And I wasn't. It was my stories, the thoughts that were running inside of me that really hindered me from sharing my true self, sharing stories about my past. I would have to really get present, especially when that fear would come up. I'd have to get present and change the story in that moment. And that's how I was able to get very comfortable sharing. And I've been talking for the last 20 minutes, but very comfortable sharing my story and, being my authentic self.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to your progress, how you went from, moving and having these new experiences and, you know, really starting to search when you were having, your stomach issue and not just, blowing it off and treating it, but really stepping in and asking the big question, like, what is causing this? And I think that that line of questioning that it sounds like you've done throughout the process of your life has really been beneficial and turned into this storyboard, you know, scenario that really helped you dive in, like, okay, this is what my life looks like and these are the stories that I'm telling myself, but I can create a story for myself and not listen to the repetitive stories that I'm always telling myself, to create a new version of myself or something that I want to attain, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, there are ways that we can upgrade our stories. Like these stories, and a lot of the times these stories have not been there. Like we haven't purposely put these stories there. A lot of the times they're like society, the environment around us, all of these messages that we've grown up with. Our parents saying, especially in my culture, they're telling us, oh, you have to be a doctor, engineer, programming us from the very get-go. Like 2 years old, they're telling you, or you can only focus on this particular narrow path in life. So that's programming, right? And we haven't put these stories there ourselves. Someone else has put there, but it's up to us now to go back and understand what stories are there, really break those down, and we can start removing them. It's up to us. We can do that work. Even though those stories were not there, not planted by us, we can remove them, uproot them. It's like planting a seed. You take out the tree or the shrub that was there before, clean up the soil, work on it a little bit, water it, take care of it, you're planting it, and then you put a seed in there, planting a seed. That's the new seed that will germinate on the same soil that was carrying the previous plant. And that's the same thing that's happening within us. You want to uproot all of the old stuff, and that's all the past work that we're doing, bringing up your past experiences, gaining insights from all of these experiences and how they're still present in your life today as certain patterns in your life. And then, all right, now we have all of this data. What can we do about it? I have a PhD. I'm like very engineering focused, logical mind. So it's kind of like analyzing and breaking things down and really kind of like, there are different ways to do, go about the same thing, same work. You could meditate, you could do yoga. But this is for someone who, really wants to understand like that right brain kind of, person that really wants to break things down and understand how their life is shaped up to what it is thus far. And so that's why I've created this My Life film, so you can kind of have this with you. And then as you're living your life, something happens tomorrow, you could update your life film, put that experience in there, answer these questions, and kind of create your story consciously, as opposed to in the past where you were probably creating a story unconsciously.
I like the aspect too, where you're reflecting on your life. You're not just going, okay, I did that, I want to do something better. No, you're questioning, why did I do that? And what can I do, to respond differently in the future?
Yes, we're diving deeper and not looking at the surface level. It's like uh, going back to the theater analogy, right? You're watching this movie, you're watching your own life film on the screen, and you're living those experiences. What this course does is we're actually your best friend who's sitting somewhere else in the theater, and your best friend is watching you go through all of these experiences. And so what your best friend is writing down is, how is he going through those experiences currently to this in this day, and he's kind of understanding that aspect. And that's what we're doing with this course. We're going to be the best friend that you have, that's going to dive deeper and really understand how that past experience has emotions from that past experience is still present today, and how they're affecting your decision making, how they're affecting your energy, how they're affecting everything in your life to this very day. And I think it's very important to understand that, because that's our life. That's what we're that's going to be what's created in our life, and more of what's created in our life. So it's up to us kind of go in to really understand what's in that soil. Is it a weed that's kind of distracting you from where you want to go in life, or is it actually a plant that's going to heal you, and it's a herb that's going to get you where you want to go? And it's up to us to look at the soil and really pay attention to it. And meditation has really helped me do that for myself. Become aware of my thoughts in the moment as I'm creating these different stories, as I'm projecting out these different images. Meditation has helped me become very present. In the past, I would be very reactive. There's some stimulus would come about, and boom, I'd react to it. Now, meditation has allowed me to slow down and respond to something as opposed to, just get into it right away.
Mhm.
So meditation has been an amazing tool for me, life changing.
It really is, isn't it? I like start meditating, right? It really does change your life.
It does.
And it
Yeah.
does, it helps you access that inner awareness. And you get to like, what are my belief systems? What's my past programming? What are my patterns? How do I react in certain situations? What are my triggers? And then how do I handle those triggers?
Yeah. And then,
And
like,
where are
what
they
are my
coming from?
values? Something deeper, like, what are my values? Like, what do
Mhm.
I stand for? In my life, I'd never done this exercise of understanding what my values are. Like, what do I care about? I've become plant-based in the last about 5 years or so. Now that's making a stance for something. Like, this is what I care about. This is my value. And so that's all been the work that I've done in the last like few years. But most of my life, I'm 36 right now. Most of my life, 30 years of my life, have been very unconscious. Still kind of just being in that survival mode. And finally I've been able to sit down and give myself that space, give myself that time, give myself that energy to look within. Most of my life I've been running outside and looking for happiness outside of me,
Mhm.
wherein it all exists inside of you and your stories. You could create a happy story for yourself. I mean, I know, like Dr. Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about how, so he was one of the survivors of the concentration camps in Germany, of Auschwitz, and he's a psychologist, and he talks about how the people that survived through the concentration camps, they had a longer purpose. Every day they would wake up with that purpose in mind. They had an image in their mind. They created a story in their mind that when when this phase in their life is over, when they're out of these concentration camps, they're going to be living a life. They're going to have a family. They're going to be back with their wife, their kids, and going to be living a normal life. So they had a vision for themselves. The people that gave up were the ones that didn't have. They were in the survival mode, just living day to day, not having that why, not having that purpose that pushed them for the longer term. And so it's that sense of how are you, what stories are you creating? So even being in that kind of environment, he was still looking at his life, like creating this positive story for himself. He wasn't ruminating, he wasn't moaning and groaning about his current situation. He probably was inside, but the face that he would show up with every day to everyone around him was, look, let's put this positive front, like we're going to make it through. And every day he was encouraging people, it's time, like let's make it through, we're going to do this together. And people would give up on him, but he was the one of very few who made it through the concentration camps. And so it's that story that we're creating inside of us, and we have the power. It's not we have the power to change those stories throughout every day, every moment of our life, and it all starts with awareness,
Yeah,
being aware.
awareness is key.
Yeah.
It really is so important to change anything in our lives. We have to have the awareness of what we're currently doing, right?
Right.
Because if we don't have the awareness of what we're currently doing, how can we create something different?
Right. Yeah, there is this book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And in that, the doctor, what he writes is there are multiple different levels of self-talk. What we're telling ourselves about ourselves and the world around us. And one of those levels or types of self-talk is silent self-talk, meaning that is the one that's 99% of the world is going through, but we're not aware of that silent self-talk. It's constantly happening. That chatter in the mind is constantly happening. And it takes that little meditation, it takes that little space to sit down and be aware of that chatter, that voice that's been creating your stories in your life thus far. And once you start changing that voice in the direction that you want to go in, then all of your limitations will drop. All of your you'll start becoming more happier, becoming more joyful. You'll live life with more at ease. That's one of my kind of missions is how can I live my life with more ease, no matter what situation I'm in. Whether it's in front of a camera, whether it's in front of a child, whatever it is, how can I be at more at ease? Not have that anger inside of me, not have that frustration inside of me at little things. And so that's been kind of my focus. And I think it starts with this storytelling, this, how do you view your life? What is your attitude towards your life? And this course will help people kind of shift that in the direction that they want to go in.
That's awesome. I like your essence word, ease, too. That's on my list as well. I definitely like ease in my life.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend people start with?
So one of the tools that I've mentioned is, I'd say, meditation, right? So that's something that, like becoming more aware of your silent self-talk, right? This is work that we can all do for ourselves. It's important work this is like self-care. True self-care is this. How can we improve on these stories that we've been constantly creating in our lives? Whether that is through meditation, through yoga, through walking, nature walk, whatever gets you to kind of still yourself and really be present with that chatter, that constant nagging, that voice that's always there. And the way I started meditation was baby steps. When I first started meditation, I was renting this room in my friend's apartment. So all of my belongings was in that room. And what I would do is I'd sit in the corner of the room. So remove all of the belongings, all of my distractions were behind me, and I'd focus on the corner. And I would try out different kinds of meditation. So sometimes I would maybe like focus on a dot, keep my eyes open, focus on a dot there, and I would just focus there for 5 minutes. My goal was only 5 minutes at the very beginning. Or I would close my eyes and imagine like a flame or something. So tried out multiple different things. I feel like every person is different. We have our own kind of own style. So find something that suits you and each individual person. And so in that sense, I tried out multiple different things. Now, the only distraction that was there at this point was my phone. It'll always be like, oh, always there. I'm just gonna pick it up and let's look up, my Instagram or whatever. And so what I did is, and the other distraction was, has it been 5 minutes yet? And so that question in the mind is like, has it been? Is it time? How long has it been? So I look at the phone. It's only been 30 seconds. So I go back to meditating. But so that was one of the major distractions at the beginning. What I did was I said, let me use my phone to set a 5-minute timer. Set my phone aside where I can't reach it instantly, out of reach. And in this way, I was able to now completely be there and just focus on this meditation. So that's how I started meditating, removing all of the distractions, using your phone to set a 5-minute timer, whatever your goal is. Use your phone. Now you don't have that question anymore. Has it been 5 minutes yet? Removing all distractions and then being present in this space. You could light an incense, light some sage, some Palo Santo, create your environment, and then sit down. And one way is to start off focusing on the breath. It's always there with you. Start your focus and just breathe in and breathe out, and that's the great way to start.
Awesome. That's great advice. And how can this change our listeners' lives? How has it changed your life?
How has it changed my life? So one of the ways is, I mentioned the speaking being one, being very comfortable speaking now and at ease. Another way is, and this is what I'll focus on, is the drifting. When I was working as in that career, I felt like I didn't have a direction in life. I was going with the flow. Whatever came next, I would just take it up, and without any purpose, without any goal, without any larger motivation in life, right? And so I felt like I was kind of drifting through life, not having my own input, not creating my own stories, allowing other people to plant their stories in me, their ideas in me. And so I was, it's kind of this drifting through life. And that's when I realized that I need to, grab hold of my life. And in the sense of it's up to me consciously to create better stories for myself. And that when I started doing that, that's when I was that's when I've been able to feed 200,000 people in LA. We've been since the pandemic started in May 2020. We started a program where we could feed people on a regular basis. So every Sunday we would get together a group of volunteers and put together meals. Initially started out with grocery bags. We realized people were losing jobs, not having food on the table. So we said, let's provide them supplies so they can go home and cook
Awesome.
these. So we started off that way, but then we kind of moved into providing hot meals, and that we've continued to even to this day. Every Sunday, a group of us get together. We make about 1,500 to 2,000 meals, and it goes out into the LA community. It serves Skid Row, the homeless shelters in Orange County, and Venice Beach, and Santa Monica. So all of these different areas, and that's how it's changed my life, is being able to, like, okay, having that kind of direction, that goal, creating better stories so that it'll help me move in that direction.
That's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much for doing that. That's a
I felt called, like it was the universe kind of sending a message to me. I didn't have this idea of, oh, I'm going to feed people. It kind of came to me where I was in India right before the pandemic hit, February 2020, and I'd met someone there, so I'd gone to a little town visiting family, and he had said, "Oh, I have this kind of guru, this swami, this learned man who, can give you some deeper insights into your life. Do you want to meet him?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it. I've been in this spiritual quest for the last 5, 6 years, so this opportunity came. The universe sent it my way for a particular reason. Let's meet him." So I met him, and one thing that stuck at that point was, so I told him, like, I'm creating a meditation center. We had this space where we were having regular meditation classes and things like that. And so I shared that with him. He said, "You know what? At this meditation space, why don't you have someone cook some meals for you so that you'll have more people come into your meditation space, and then you can give them meditation." So he planted that seed. And then comes the pandemic. And then I get a call in April 2020, a friend that I've done many different projects with. And he says, "Hey, there's this organization that wants to do something. They have a lot of funds. They want to help the community. What can we do?" And at that point, food kind of came into the picture because people were losing jobs. And so that's how it kind of planted the seed early on in February 2020, and finally came to fruition in May. And that's how it started. But it was kind of the universe pointing me in that direction and sending me the signals. And it was me being aware of those signs and putting the kind of the pieces together. So yeah, that's how it started. It's been an amazing journey thus far.
that's awesome. I love that synchronicity.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like, what I've learned from this is people are love to help. They want to come out, volunteer, they want to donate their time, their resources, their money. Uh, as long as there's the opportunity for them, like, they want to make sure that whatever they do, whatever the time they donate, whatever resources they donate, it's actually going to great cause, and it's going to the people directly that need it, right? A lot of organizations out there that probably have a budget, they have salaries, and I understand why they do it, but it's not 100% to the beneficiaries. And in this sense, when people see the work that we're doing, they want to come out, they want to support. So we'll do a call for volunteers. Maybe one weekend we're short on volunteers, so I'll just go on Facebook, and we'll have 3, 4 volunteers show up from that post. And we'll do these drives. So part of our fundraising, 50% of the funds come from that organization that we initially started out with. The other 50% we have to raise ourselves. So we go out into the community, find different partners, organizations, foundations that are looking to do some charitable work, and they donate. But then we also do GoFundMe campaigns. And I, like, for 4th of July, we did one, and I kind of did multiple different posts about it. And so then people will come and they'll share, like, "Oh yeah, I do want to support you guys." So they'll donate $20, $50, $100, whatever it is. And they're feeding people $1.50 a meal. and $15 you'll be able to feed 10 people, plus that fund is being matched by the other organization. So your $10, your $15 will actually feed 20 people instead of 10 people. And so it's just feeding the homeless and people that are neglected and people that are abused. We send meals to this women's shelter in the downtown in the Skid Row area, and they don't primarily serve women and children that have been abused, and and they need a space to live, so they have like rooms there, and so we send meals them on Sundays for them. Yeah, it's been very, very blessed work, I'd say.
That's wonderful. Have
Yeah.
you ever thought about, having the opportunity to, introduce, how do I change my story and meditation to the community?
Now that things are opening up, and California has been one of the last few states, so I've now I'm working on putting events together where uh, myself and other practitioners can come together and let's serve the community, let's serve people. Whoever shows up to these events, let's help them and improve their lives. So right before the pandemic hit, and just before I went to India, like a few days, I'd thrown a spiritual block party, which
Mm,
was so in February 15, 2020, we had about 1,500 people come through on this festival, and essentially had food vendors, plant-based food vendors. We had several different types of like meditation, several different types of yogas, and it's a whole festival that we at the same facility that we did all of these meals, that we're currently doing these meals. And so it was amazing. Really enjoyed putting it all together and setting it all up, and having so many people come in for healing and connection and meeting new people, and being exposed to different vendors and their products. So that I find joy in doing that, and I want to kind of replicate that on a regular basis. So I'm looking to do more of those events, festivals in the local area.
that's great.
Yeah.
And as far as your story, putting together your own personal film for self-development purposes, what are ways that you work with people to start doing this work with you or
So
start doing
there,
this work on their own?
yeah. So I'd say the first way would be to, if they're very interested in doing it on their own. I'm currently creating this course and almost done with it. So I'm putting this course together. People can pre-order it on the website. We have it at a 66% discount. So kind of just for the pre-orders. And essentially what it is you'll get, it's a 30-day course. Every day there's under a 15-minute video that you watch that kind of gives the instructions for the day. And then there's an exercise right after that. The exercise can take as little as 5 minutes. And when we're doing the deeper work and creating the live film, it could take as much as an hour, a couple hours. But it's a 30-day course, and every day there's a little bit. So kind of like taking that baby steps into the, to create their whole life film. So that's the way for them to do it themselves. And now if they're stuck, they're doing it themselves and they're not sure what to do at a particular step and they want more coaching, then we could do like a weekly coaching. You'll work on it on your own time, and then we'll have a weekly call to look at your progress, to kind of gain insights, to kind of dive deeper and understand certain patterns and things like that. So that's those are the two options. But I would say the beginning, the start would be, hey, take the course, get let's dive deeper into your work yourself, and then as you have questions, then we can do a weekly call as well.
Cool. Who's your ideal client and what are the benefits that come from working with you?
My ideal client is someone who is interested in understanding how their life has transpired, what experiences, what events that have happened in their life that have really had the lasting impact, had a major impact in their life, how they're still affecting them today, and what can you do to uh, not let it affect you anymore, and then achieve your goals. We have certain limitations that are stopping us from getting where we want to go. For a long time it was I wasn't able to. I'd record a video, but I wasn't able to watch my recording because I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't at ease while I was watching my own recording. There was and a while I did these panel discussions, 2-hour long panel discussions right? And on particular different topics. The first topic was mental health. The first video I do it, it was a live discussion on YouTube. And after that, I said, you know what? I want to take some little clips, 1-minute clips, and put it on Instagram. This is 2 hours long. People are not going to watch it. So I want to take some highlights and put it on Instagram. It was up to me to go through the whole 2 hours, to take certain portions of it, clip out those portions and, but I couldn't get to it. It took me about 2 months to actually get to the video because I was so unease at my own creation, right? So it's this process, this storytelling kind of helped me become more at ease at all of those issues the challenges that I've faced in my life. When I got more ease in those aspects of my life, things started happening, manifesting so quickly just because I was at ease. And I think that's the work that we all are in, is certain things have not happened in our life because we're not at ease in those situations. Once you work on becoming at ease through, this is one process, you could meditate, you could do yoga, all these different ways. But once you become at ease in that process or that aspect of your life, that's going to happen for you a lot quicker than you anticipate.
Nice. I love that. And how can people find you?
They could find me on Instagram at Dr. Varun Gandhi, or my website at the same name, drvarungandhi.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Gandhi. And what is a pearl of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with today?
A pearl of wisdom. I'd say so 2 things. One, that something that we've talked about already is pay attention to your stories. That silent self-talk that's constantly going on. Pay attention to that. Be aware of it. The second one that we've not talked about, but it's kind of in my title, The Water Doctor. I'm going to say drink more water. The reason is because there's this book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. It was written back in the late 80s, early 90s. And this was research done in a jail cell, in a prison in Iran. So a doctor was in prison. He was in prison for whatever reason. The revolution was going on at that time. And so he was in the jail, and he saw a lot of people that were like, they had lack of energy. They were in the jail cell they're not able to support themselves. They're having some sort of pain. They're having some sort of ulcers. And all he did was give them water, like allow them to drink some water. And within 3 hours, he saw a noticeable difference. Within 6 hours, they were like completely better, like a whole new person, just by drinking water. He didn't do anything else. And so he realized that dehydration was the cause for whatever those patients had. And so then he started doing research, diving deeper into what dehydration is, into what the paradigms are around water. One of the things he said is, 80% of our body is water, or 75% of our body is water. When we take any kind of medication, we're only looking at the 25% of our body that's not water. That's what the medication affects. But when we drink water, we're actually focusing on that 75%. That water is most of us. And when you replenish yourself with water, about 50% of all the common diseases that people have right now will drop away. Dehydration is a cause for a lot of these things. And, this book dives deeper into each individual issue. So I highly recommend this book, and highly recommend drinking more water and paying attention to when you're dehydrated, because water does wonders for us.
That's awesome. Thanks. What a wonderful story. Wow. What a way to turn something around, something negative into something positive, right?
Yeah. What story that he must have been creating in the jail cell, right?
Right. Thanks, Dr. Varun. This has been awesome. It's been great to have you. Fantastic
Thank you so
conversation.
much, Liz. Love and abundance.
Thanks. And thank you everyone for joining us again. This is Liz Peterson on Raise the Vibe with Liz. And remember, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Raise the Vibe with Liz. And my website is lizshealingtouch.com. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And remember to get out there and raise the vibe. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.